This time on the Families Matter Most podcast, I'm doing something I've never done before. I'm giving up control. Sean is taking over.
Every time Jenn Dean speaks, I can see hope, knowledge, expertise, wisdom, and love.
When Jenn Dean speaks about parenting, we make sure that we are there to listen because we know we will get valuable advice.
Families Matter Most with Jenn Dean.
She doesn't just give skills for us to be better parents, but she teaches us how to reach our children's hearts. And at the end of the day, that's what truly matters.
Well, here we are. Wow. This is Sean. I am Jen's husband. And this is episode 100 of the Families Matter Most podcast. Can you believe it?
Wow, I can hardly believe it.
If you knew Jenn a long time ago, like when I did, before she did any of this stuff, and someone asked her, I want you to speak and do a podcast and talk to people. I want you to get on stages and talk to people.
Oh, man.
I want you to get on the radio and talk to people. She would have probably lipped you off and said, are you insane?
I would have crapped my pants. That's what I would have done.
She would have crapped her pants. So today, Jenn, I'm in control of the Families Matter Most podcast. Are you scared?
I am nervous. Yeah, I am a little cautiously nervous.
Well, first off, can I say thank you to everyone who's downloaded, listened, clicked, whatever you got to do to find these podcasts. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing the word. Like thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads, Jenn. People have listened, not just in Canada, North America, all over the world. You never talk about this stuff, and I'm proud of you, so I can brag.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very grateful. I'm grateful that lots of families are hopefully being encouraged and getting some new tools. That's awesome.
So I did a little thing with Patricia, who works at Families Matter Most.
Yes.
We sent out a note to all the different people who subscribe to your email, which you should, by the way, as well as different clients and all kinds of people who listen to the podcast to say, let's ask Jenn a question. Anything you want to know, ask her a question.
Okay.
So we've compiled a bunch of these questions. You haven't seen them. We're going to ask you some questions on the podcast today. I think you're going to find this enlightening, encouraging, and hopefully you'll have a few laughs along the way with Jenn and I.
Oh, okay. Let's do it.
Well, I have a question first before we get to anyone. Well, more of a statement. I want to go back to podcast episode number 6, How to Find a Mentor. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yes.
What was that one about, Jenn?
That one was about finding and being a mentor. And the purpose, the goal was to encourage everyone that they have to find a mentor.
Yep.
But they also have to be a mentor.
Yes. But there was another part of it. It was like if you're friends with someone, that has a certain skill set and they can mentor you in something, then make sure you pay them for that.
Yes, because everyone's always asking for free, for free stuff. Can I pick your brain? Can you just help me?
I have been editing every single one of these 99 podcasts to this date. And after that podcast was done, I said to her, I was like, that's really cool. I really took a lot from that, Jenn, especially the part about, finding a mentor and someone with a skill set and then paying them. And she's like, I know, I think it's so important. Wait a second.
Wait, Sean, you're editing my podcast for free.
I have never been paid.
Oh, come on. I pay Sean in a variety of ways.
Well, we're not going to. Well,
let's leave it there,
maybe
Sean.
We'll go there today. We'll see what the questions are. Okay. Someone wants to know, how did you start coaching and how did you even start this podcasting?
Those are both big questions.
Well,
okay. Coaching years and years ago when my kids were little and I felt like I was drowning in diapers and I was failing at parenting, and I would strap my kids into the minivan. They would be safe. And then I would sit on my step and I would cry.
Yeah.
And I would do this almost every day. This was my life. I felt like just getting out of the house was so difficult and everything was hard. And it's not at all like the cute little diaper commercials. No. There's anger and tears and poop and stress and exhaustion.
And no sleep.
Oh, so life was really hard for me back then. And I remember thinking, I'm all alone. Like everybody else is doing this better than I am. And what's wrong with me? And I felt like a failure. I felt like a stranger off the street could do a better job raising my kids than I could.
I remember the first time you told me that, actually the first time I heard it, you were giving a speech somewhere talking about this. And that's the first time I heard you say that. And I was like, man, I didn't know you were hurting so bad sometimes in relationships, right? We don't talk enough maybe about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was so hard. And it's funny, it's when you're in it, it kind of happens by degrees. So it just, I don't know, when you're crying every day and miserable and feeling like a failure, it doesn't feel like there's much to talk about.
Okay, so you're a miserable mess of mother muckiness.
Yes.
How did you go from that to being on stages, talking to people, helping them on a podcast like this,
Crazy,
giving advice. Like, what got you from there to here?
Well, I started a support group.
Okay, fair enough.
One day, as I was sitting on my step and crying, I just really felt like, hey, you know what? There's got to be other women that feel this way too, other moms. Like, I can't be the only one that feels like I'm failing at this whole parenting thing.
Yeah.
And so at my local church, I started a mom's support group. We called it Breakaway. And it was really a place to get together and to just figure out, okay, what can we do to reach the hearts of our kids? Because we don't want to be yelling at them all the time. We don't want to be so angry. So what can we do? And that's really where it started. I ended up learning tools, taking courses. I found an organization in the States that I thought they did a good job of teaching strategies that really helped with relationships too. Because here's the thing, we can make our kids do stuff. We can make them take out the garbage. We can make them get their shoes on. But sometimes when we can do it, it's harsh, it's mean, and it's not great for the relationship. And I wanted more than that. So I found strategies. And then as I got better and better at using them in my home, people were saying, hey, can you come to my house and help me? Can you come here and teach us?
And then ding, ding, ding.
And that's how coaching started. I remember figuring out, what do I charge for this? Because I have no idea, but I have to get something for my time.
Yeah.
And I remember literally thinking, well, my kid's piano lesson is this much, so I'll just charge the same.
Now, so what got the podcast going? Obviously, you saw a problem with our own kids and you found ways to do it. People noticed it, and then that's how you kind of got found and were asked to speak at places. So what made you want to do the podcast?
Well, fast forward, I'm getting invited to speak in different organizations, community groups, churches, all over the country, but I'm only one person and I can't be everywhere. And I thought, I wish that there was a free way that I could give tools to every parent, that they wouldn't have to wait or pay for me to come out there. This was an opportunity to give value and help to parents no matter what, no matter where you are in the world. Here are free tools that you can utilize. And I feel like on social media, I can only talk for maybe a minute or two, where this I can give a solid half hour where you're not just getting a little bite, like you're getting something that you can use, that you can apply, and it can make a difference in your home.
Now, this question I want to ask you, I hope you're not going to take offense to it, because it's not my question, so you can't get mad at me this time.
Okay, fine.
Are you insecure, Jen, and how do you handle criticism?
Oh, that's a great question.
So first off, are you insecure?
Why is it that obvious? Why?
I didn't ask the question. I'm just reading the question.
I can be. I have insecurities, yes. I've had to overcome a ton. And it's funny, every time I think that I've made progress, something happens and I feel all my insecurities come back. My insecurities come down to, I feel like I'm not accepted. I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like I'm not smart enough. I'm stupid.
Does this have something to do with your childhood a little bit too? Does everything always go back to that?
Does it always?
I don't know. I'm asking.
I think so. I think I always felt like I didn't belong anywhere and I wasn't accepted.
Yeah.
I always felt like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough to be loved. I wasn't good enough to be accepted. So I had a lot of rejection issues in my life. And unfortunately, I've gotten tons of help and I've done lots of work, but still they can still show up every now and then. And I hate it, but it's a part of my story and I think something that I'm just going to have to live with. However, I will say, so the quick answer is yes, I still have insecurities, but I've decided that I'm not going to live my life through them. I'm not. So they're there. I know that they're there, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it scared. I'm going to do it no matter what.
Wouldn't it be safe to say we probably all have insecurities, right?
Oh, I haven't met someone that doesn't.
No.
Yeah.
So then how do you handle criticism? Because that's all tied to it, right?
Well, first I cry.
Okay.
First I cry. And then I usually go for a power walk.
Okay.
And then I might phone a friend or talk to you. And then usually a part of my life is prayer. So I'll spend some time in prayer. And then I usually I cry again. And then I have to wait a day or two. And then I'm okay.
And sometimes criticism is okay, right? If it's coming from the right place and from someone you value, right?
Well, I think that's the right answer, but I would never say that I enjoy criticism.
Never, even if it's making you better?
I could say much after the fact that I'm glad it happened, but never once would I say, yes, thank you. Thank you for that criticism. No, I would still go home and cry.
Okay.
But Sean's right. It is good for us. And I can look back on some of the criticisms that were true and say, you know what? It did make me better.
Constructive criticism.
That's what it's called. Yeah.
Destructive criticism.
Yeah, it's still hard. It's still hard no matter who you are. It's still hard. But
Funny how those words are so close.
yeah, but good.
All right.
Criticism is good in the end.
All right, I got a question here. How long have you been married, and are you happy in your marriage?
Who asked me that?
I'm actually curious for your answer, not because I'm married to you. I just want to, for the people, Jen.
Well, I have to say, yes, I'm very happy.
You can honestly say whatever you want. I can edit it out later.
No, we've been married for 25 years.
Yes.
And we have been happy for the last 7, 10.
We weren't that miserable before.
We had a couple of hard years.
Hey, when you're outnumbered and you have 2 little ones in diapers running around and like a 4-year-old on top of that,
Yeah.
it's tough. No sleep. You're young. We had our first kid really young.
Mm-hmm.
You're not making a lot of money, right? All that stuff had something to do with our unhappiness, apparently.
There were a couple of years around the 7th year of marriage.
Yeah.
That was particularly hard. We were both in counseling for that one.
The 7-year itch, they say.
Oh, yeah. So for us, there was no adultery. There was nothing like that.
No.
But there was a lot of anger, and both of us didn't have healthy ways of processing our frustrations, and it came out on each other. We were not kind to each other.
Okay, so how are you now in your marriage? Sean wants to know. I mean, Anonymous wants to know.
Right. I would say that, you know what we have learned to do over the years? We've learned to accept each other for who we are.
Yep.
I would say, I think Sean did a much better job of that than I did. I was very critical for a long time in my marriage. And that hurt us. It hurt Sean. I made him feel like he wasn't good enough. There was always something I wanted him to work on, to change, to improve. I wanted him to be something else. And I think that was really hard on our marriage. And Sean was really good at accepting me. And I had to learn that this is the way our life is going to look, and it's going to be different, and it's not going to be this other thing I had in my mind. And it's funny that as soon as I did that and just embraced who Sean is and how great he is in his own way, then our marriage really took off. And I would say, yes, we have a very happy marriage. I would say now in the past decade that Sean and I can't speak for Sean. I will say that Sean is my very best friend. Like, I love him and I love spending time with him.
You're in my top 5. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I appreciate that. That means a lot. And it took a lot of work, and it takes a lot of humility, and it took a lot of looking in the mirror and then understanding each other's motives for things too. Where a lot of the times, like, if I'm cleaning up the house, it doesn't mean I think you're a dirty pig.
Well, and that's what we used to do. We would fight over that. And to be fair, Sean would stomp around while he was doing it.
No, I would huff. It's different.
So I would take it personal, and then we would fight, and I would feel like he doesn't think I'm a very good mom. It was rough.
Okay, so what advice would you give to a couple that maybe they're listening right now and they're not having a great marriage right now? But it could be.
It could be.
Is there one piece of advice you could talk to a couple right now to say, maybe just talk about this?
I would say you have no idea how good it can be.
Yeah.
And on your hard days or hard months or hard year or two, I would want you to have hope that really and truly you could look back on those years and say, now we are best friends and we have the most amazing marriage. It is not hopeless. I would say go to counseling separately. Work on yourselves. Work on your marriage together. So much of the issues Sean and I had were not necessarily about us as a couple, but about us individually. And as we worked on our own stuff, our marriage improved. Secondly, I would say just choose to accept your partner the way that they are. Call out the strengths that they have. Instead of focusing on all the things they don't do, compliment them for everything they do do.
Because we also have a lot of faults, each of us. Jen's included in that. I'm not.
Okay, is there a list coming?
No. I'm going to watch what I say now very carefully after you say all these nice things about me. But you know what I'm saying, right?
Yes,
we all have faults.
We all have faults. And recognizing that, your partner doesn't wake up in the morning thinking, gee, how can I make their life miserable? What can I do to tick them off today? They're not. They're just living their life.
We're going to have a little fun right now. This is going to be a quick little part of the show where we're doing lightning round. So quick answers.
Oh,
Are you
boy.
ready?
Okay.
Will you eventually transition to gray hair?
I don't know. I don't know how I would look in that.
Why not?
I don't know. I'm afraid of it.
Do you like shopping?
No. I want to get in, get what I need, and get out. I do not like to shop.
You're very mannish.
I'm a very mannish woman, yes.
Where are the gitch? I'm getting in, getting the gitch, and I'm getting out.
Get me out of here.
Are you ever going to write a book?
Oh, yes, please. I really want to. I'm not good at setting aside the time to write a book.
Are you a vegan?
No, I'm a wannabe vegan, but I cheat every single day.
Okay, fair enough. So she's a cheater.
I'm a cheegan. That's what I am.
Yeah, you heard it here first. All right, what does a day look like for you, Jen? Because you're doing a lot of things. Overwhelm could be a word that some people might say when people get super busy. So what does a day look like for Jen from Families Matter Most and the other things that you're doing?
Oh, well, I have different tracks. If you've heard me speak before, I talk about which lane you're in, what track you're in. And so I have different tracks, and the different days represent different kinds of parts of my life. So I might have a Families Matter Most day where I'm totally in that lane where I have clients. I have 2 days a week are client days. So I have clients, and then I go and do the radio show, and then I have clients again, and it's very much client focused. I'm focused on my people. Other days are more admin and, content days where those are fun too. I get to sit on my chair. I have a little sunlight and I have coffee and my dog on my lap.
Oh,
and
you should see it.
Oh,
it's so funny.
it's
so
wonderful.
funny. She's like in this little, and there's a plant that kind of hangs over her head.
Yes.
It's like this little corner oasis.
It's a kind of almost tropical. I can feel like I'm in the sun, and I'll read, I'll plan content, I'll do some emails. Those are fun days too. And then I have the radio days where I might be on location somewhere, I might be at an event and then doing the radio show. So I kind of have those three. I also have another kind of a day where it's just like a day off day and it tends to be Thursdays are my day to plan haircuts or doctor's appointments or errands. And then I might go for lunch, or I might have a nap, or I might just lay around the house. And those are also very fun days.
Now, how do you manage this all? Because you're doing like two different jobs in a sense. Like it's like you have two different part-time jobs that are more than part-time jobs. How do you manage it all?
Well, Patricia saves my life. Patricia, shout out to Patricia. I'd gotten some business coaching years ago that said, hire before you're ready. Because when you have a business, we all have this idea that once I reach this goal, this many clients or this income, then I can afford to hire out.
Yep.
But this advice said, no, hire out before you get there, because you might not get there without that help. So I reached out to Patricia and hired her years ago. And absolutely, it has paid off. She runs so much of my life. She's very admin focused, which I am not.
Yep.
She will remind me of things like dentist appointments. She will help me just organize my time and my schedule. There's no way that I could do it without her. Also, I pay someone to clean my house. I order in groceries. I've found ways to hack my time. Otherwise, I just don't think it's possible. And I need to say this to all the moms. My kids are not young.
Yeah.
I could not do this if my kids were young and needed my attention.
Yeah.
We homeschooled.
Yep.
There's no way at all that I could be doing all of this while my kids were young.
All our children right now are older. They're almost adults, 18, 19s and married and moved out, some of them. So it's a different mindset. We couldn't do all the things, and you couldn't do the things that you're doing with little ones running around. Okay.
There's no way. So please do not feel like, gee, Jen's doing all this. What's wrong with me? No, I don't do it all. I have help, and I couldn't have done it when my kids were young.
No. Okay, so that's fair. You talked about being on the radio, and you and I do that. For those who don't know, jack945.com. You can listen live anytime. We're on every day, Monday to Friday, 4 o'clock, and we're on weekends from noon to 3. Is that a plug? Can I
Yeah,
say
have a
plug?
listen. Call in.
Someone wants to know, what's it like being on the radio? How did that happen? This is an example of some of the production that we'll run on our show.
They shower together. Not for love. They're just cheap. Jack 94.5 with Sean and Jen.
You might like that. You might like this.
Yes, they are married. Still, the Sean and Jen Show on Jack 94.5.
So how did you get on the radio? How did I know the answer to
Yes.
this question? But someone wants to know, how did that happen?
It's so fascinating how you do one thing, not realizing what it's going to lead you to. So I started that support group for moms years ago.
Breakaway, which is actually still going, just so you know.
Which I love. I love that it's still there for moms. Years ago, not realizing that it would eventually lead to me starting a coaching business where I get to be super nanny and help parents. I had no idea. And then I had no idea that that would eventually lead to me starting a podcast where I'm doing speaking into a microphone.
Yeah.
Having no idea that it would eventually lead to the radio. So it was the podcast and Sean that got me on this radio. Sean, do you want to share the story of how it happened?
It was funny. I work in broadcasting for a group of radio stations, and someone had left, and one of my bosses said, would you fill in? I said, sure. And he asked me, would you ever work as a team again with someone? And I was like, I threw it out of nowhere. I don't know why I even said it. I said, my wife does these podcasts. I've watched her speak at things. She's accidentally funny all the time. And he said, a husband and wife would be cool. And so they said, why don't you just do a dummy show?
Yeah, trial.
One that wouldn't go on air, but it sounded like it was. And we did it. And they said, we love it. Why don't you guys work on Saturdays and Sundays? And then COVID hit. So it was like it gave us something to do. And that's really how it started.
Mm-hmm. That's how it started. Sean, did you have any idea, like before this meeting where you threw out our names, were you thinking, gee, I wonder, should Jen and I have a radio?
No, the meeting was about something completely different, but we were just having lunch and just, BSing a bit. So he just asked me some questions and it just kind of came up out of nowhere. And believe it or not, I think he listened to the podcast of you and I, because this is only the second time I've been on your podcast, by the way.
Well, we'll have to change that.
Just saying. And he thought it was interesting to have a husband and wife dynamic on the radio. And like I said, it started on the weekends, and then that went so well, they said, we want to have you on every day. So we had to work it around your schedule, which is why we're on from 4 till 6 every day on the drive home. And then Jen does an hour before that.
It's pretty sweet, actually, because I can have clients in the afternoon, come here, have some fun with Sean, and then either go to an event or have clients in the evening. And it works out really, really well.
I kind of get offended sometimes when people say, how can you work with your wife every day?
Right. That does sound kind of
And I say,
negative.
well, we just suck it up, whatever. I just kind of do. But the truth is, if you can get to a place where you can do that, and I know some other couples we know that work together in different businesses where they love it. They love being able to work together every day. So I do.
Well, thank you.
If you had a day off and you had $100, Jen, what would you do?
Ooh, do I get more than one option? Or
No, I don't. You have $100, so make it work.
I would go thrift store shopping or consignment store shopping.
I love this about Jen.
I would do that, see if I could find something awesome. I would go probably to a bookstore and get a book or a journal.
Okay.
And then I would go to a coffee shop. Yeah, I might go for lunch. I love going for lunch by myself.
Well, it depends where you go for lunch. That $100 could be down to $15 by now.
I know. I also need a book. I also need a fancy coffee in there. And then depending on what I find at the consignment store, there's my $100. It would be a great afternoon, though.
15 minutes, it'd all be gone.
No, so much fun. I would sit in that coffee shop and read the new book that I got. It would be amazing.
Well, time is flying by. We have time for a few more questions. Is that okay?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Are you always happy?
Yes, I am.
Do you ever have down days, Jen?
Never. I never have a down day, right, Sean?
This is your show. I'm asking the questions.
No, you know what? My struggle that I'm working on currently is contentment, because I'm super driven, which is a good thing. I was a strong-willed kid, and that's why I love helping parents of strong-willed kids. Strong-willed kids are my people. This is my jam. I was one. I have one. I still am one. One of the positives of strong-willed determination is that drivenness, that always searching for more, always seeking for what's the next thing. How can I make it better? What can I do to improve? That is a good quality. But the dark side of that is we're always looking for more. It's never good enough the way that it is. How can I make it better? And so I'm struggling with contentment because I like the idea of being driven, but I feel like, okay, in this season, I need to take my foot off the gas a little bit and just enjoy this a little more and not always be trying to seek out the next thing.
I tell Jen sometimes, I'm like, she's always looking up at the peak. She wants to get to the peak of whatever it is. I don't even know if these peaks exist, if you know someone like this. And I say, you know what? You started way down here at the bottom. The peak is almost unattainable, maybe. Sometimes we make those peaks so high.
Yeah.
And I tell you, like, even if you're 40% of the way up, like, stop, pitch a tent, enjoy the fire, and take a look around where you are. That's what I keep telling her, man.
That's what I want to do. I don't know that it will ever be the peak. I think it's unattainable. I think whatever happens, I'll always see, well, it could be more. It could be better. I could do this.
So I'm going to coach Jen and say, lower the damn peak.
Yeah.
There you go.
Pitch a tent and enjoy.
Yeah.
And be content. Yes. Contentment is my new thing. I'm really working on that.
Make out with your husband.
Well, right?
Simple things. All right. Jen, what has been your greatest personal obstacle And how did you overcome it? That's a loaded question.
Whoa.
Wow.
Greatest personal obstacle.
And how did you overcome the thing?
Greatest. Well, I would say
Don't say your marriage.
my husband has
There
been.
you go.
No. I would say deal with your crap. Deal with your crap. Deal with it.
And you mean that in the nicest possible way.
I mean it. That was my biggest personal obstacle. I had to deal with my crap, and I had to take responsibility for my own behavior because just, something may have happened to me, and it wasn't my fault, but now it's my problem to solve. And that's not fair. It's not fair that stuff happened to us in our life, but it's still up to me to do the work to heal from it so that I don't hurt the people that I love. And one thing I've learned over the years is all of the things that we do, it affects other people. And so I have had to learn to deal with my own crap in the nicest way possible so that I'm not inadvertently taking it out on my partner, my kids, my coworkers, because we'll do that. 100%. If you don't deal with your crap, you will take it out on the people you love. And I don't want to do that. And neither do you. So you deal with your crap too.
Well, thank you very much, Jen. I appreciate having you on your own show and allowing me to ask you the questions today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, this is so weird. Go to familiesmattermost.com. You can get tons of information about how to book time with Jen or even how to check out all the other podcasts. You can go on that website. You can find everything you need. Is there any last words you'd like to say to the people who've downloaded and listened to your podcast these past few years?
Oh, just that I'm so grateful. I want to say thank you for supporting, because every time you listen, every time you download, every time you share or refer, that's how this business grows. So because of you, this podcast has helped more than 70,000 different downloads. Like people are...
It's over 80,000 now, just so you know.
That's amazing. People are being helped. It's absolutely free. There's tools and strategies. And my hope is that every person listening will get real practical tools they can use in their home, but also encouragement to keep going on the hard days. So thank you so much. You've been a part of that. I hope you've felt encouraged over these years. And if you have any topic ideas for future podcasts, let me know.
Okay, so is this the part where I close it now?
Yeah. Say something inspirational, motivational,
You can do it.
Oh, well, thank you for that.
Congratulations on 100 episodes, my dear.
Thank you so much for editing 100 episodes, my dear.
There's money, right? I get paid, right?
There's payment.
Thanks for listening to the Families Matter Most podcast with Jenn Dean, part of the Saskatchewan Podcast Network. If you are interested in contacting Jenn for one-on-one parent coaching, for speaking engagements, or just to get a little more information, please visit our website, familiesmattermost.com.